Hi everybody, I can't believe we are already on our 6th week of Reading Wonder. I feel like it's going by so fast, but I am really loving this book. I just want to start the video by saying I miss you all so much, and I know I say that every week, but I do truly miss you all, and I wish we could be in school still. But for right now, let's recap and think about what happened last week in Wonder. So if we remember, we switched from listening to the story in Augie's point of view. So Augie was telling us the events and everything that happened, and now we're hearing the story from Via's point of view. So I think that's really interesting how the author did that. And where we left off yesterday, Via was on her first day of high school, and she had just gotten home. So let's jump right back in and get to our reading. So our first section today is The Padawan Bites the Dust. I'm not sure at what point that night Augie had cut off his Padawan braid, or why it really made me mad. I had always found his obsession with everything Star Wars kind of geeky, and that braid in his hair with the little beads was just awful, but he had always been so proud of it, of how long it took him to grow it out, of how he had chosen the beads himself in the craft store in Soho. He and Christopher, his best friend, used to play with lightsabers and Star Wars stuff whenever they got together, and they both started growing out their braids at the exact same time. When August cut his braid off that night, without an explanation, without telling me beforehand, which was surprising, or even calling Christopher, I was so upset I can't even explain why. I've seen Augie brushing his hair in the bedroom mirror. He meticulously tries to get every hair into place. He tilts his head to look at himself in different angles, like there's some kind of magic perspective inside that mirror that could change the dimensions of his face. Mom knocked on my door after dinner. She looked drained, and I realized that between me and August, today had been a rough day for her too. So, tell me, what's up? She asked nicely. Not now, okay, I answered. I was reading, and I was tired. I'll check on you before I go to bed, she said, and then she came over and kissed me on the top of the head. Can Daisy sleep with me tonight? Sure, I'll bring her back later. Don't forget to come back, I said as she left. I promise. But she didn't come back that night. Dad did. He told me that Augie had a bad first day of school, and Mom was helping him through it. He asked me how my day had gone, and I told him it was fine. He didn't believe me for a second, and I told him about Miranda and Ella, and how they were acting like jerks. I didn't mention how I took the subway home myself, though. He said nothing tests friendship like high school, and then proceeded to poke fun at the fact that I was reading War and Peace. Not real fun, of course, since I'd heard him brag to the people that he had a 15-year-old who was reading Tolstoy. But he liked to rib me about where I was in the book, in the part about war or in the part about peace, and if there was anything about Napoleon's days as a hip-hop dancer. It was silly stuff, but Dad always managed to make everyone laugh. And sometimes that's all you need to feel better. Don't be mad at Mom, he said as he bent down to give me a goodnight kiss. You know how much she worries about Augie. I know, I acknowledged. Do you want the lights on or off? It's getting kind of late, he said. Can you bring Daisy in first? 2 seconds later, he came back with Daisy, dangling in his arms, and he laid her down next to me on the bed. Good night, sweetheart, he said, kissing my forehead. He had kissed Daisy on the forehead, too. Good night, girlie. Sweet dreams. An apparition in the door. Once, I got up in the middle of the night because I was thirsty, and I saw Mom standing outside Augie's room. Her hand was on the doorknob. Her forehead was leaning on the door, which was ajar. She wasn't going in his room or stepping out, just standing right outside the door as if she was listening to the sound of his breathing as he slept. The hallway lights were out. The only thing illuminating her was a blue nightlight in August's bedroom. She looked ghost-like standing there, or maybe I should say angelic. I tried to walk back into my room without disturbing her, but she had already heard me and walked over. Is Augie okay? I asked. I knew sometimes he would wake up choking on his own saliva if he accidentally turned on his back. Oh, he's fine, she said, wrapping me in her arms. She walked me back to my room and pulled the covers over me. I wonder how many nights she stood outside his door, and I wonder if she's ever stood outside my door like that. Breakfast. Can you pick me up from school today? I said the next morning, smearing some cream cheese on my bagel. Mom was making August's lunch, American cheese on whole wheat bread, soft enough for Augie to eat, while August was sitting eating oatmeal at the table. Dad was getting ready to go to work. Now that I was in high school, the new routine was going to be that Dad and I would take the subway together in the morning, which meant his having to leave 15 minutes earlier than usual. Then I'd get off my stop and he would keep going, and Mom was going to pick me up in the car after school. I was going to call Miranda's mom to see if she could drive you home again, Mom answered. No, Mom, I said quickly. You'll pick me up or I'll take the subway home. You know I don't want you taking the subway by yourself yet, she answered. I am 15, Mom. Everybody my age takes the subway themselves. She can take the subway home, said Dad from the other room, adjusting his tie as he stepped into the kitchen. Why can't Miranda's mom just pick her up again? Mom argued with him. She's old enough to take the subway by herself, Dad insisted. Mom looked at both of us. Is something going on? She didn't look to either of us in particular. You would know if you had come back in my room to check on me, I said spitefully, like you said you would. Oh God, Via, said Mom, remembering how she completely ditched me last night. She put down the knife she was using to cut Augie's grapes in half. Still a choking hazard for him because of the size of his palate. I'm so sorry. I fell asleep in August's room by the time I woke up. I know, I nodded indifferently. Mom came over, put her hands on my cheeks, and lifted my face to look at her. I am really, really sorry, she whispered. I could tell she was. It's okay, I said, Via. Mom, it's fine. This time I meant it. She looked so genuinely sorry. I just wanted to let her off the hook. She kissed and hugged me and then returned to the grapes. So, is something going on with Miranda? She asked. Just she's acting like a complete jerk, I said. Miranda's not a jerk, Augie quickly chimed in. She can be, I yelled, believe me. Okay, then I'll pick you up, no problem, Mom said decisively, sweeping half of the grapes into a snack bag with the side of her knife. That was the plan all along anyways. I'll pick Augie up from school in the car, and then we'll pick you up after. We'll probably get there around 3:45. No, I said firmly before she'd even finished. Isabella, she can take the subway, said Dad impatiently. She's a big girl now. She's reading War and Peace for crying out loud. What does War and Peace have to do with anything? Mom answered, clearly annoyed. It means you don't need to pick her up in the car like she's a little girl. Via, are you ready? Get your bag and let's go. I'm ready, I said, pulling my backpack. Bye, Mom. Bye, Augie. I kissed them both quickly and headed to the door. Do you even have a Metro card? Mom yelled after me. Of course she has a Metro card, Dad answered, fully exasperated. Yeesh, Mom, stop worrying so much. Bye, he said, kissing her on the forehead. Bye, big boy, he said to August, kissing him on the top of the head. I'm proud of you. Have a good day at school. Bye, Daddy, you too. Dad and I jogged down the steep stairs and headed down the block. Call me after school before you get on the subway, Mom yelled at me from the window. I didn't even turn around, but waved my hand at her so she had known I heard her. Dad did the turnaround, walking backwards for a few steps. War and Peace, Isabella, he called out, smiling and pointing at her. War and Peace. Genetics 101. Both sides of Dad's family were Jews from Russia and Poland. Papa's grandparents fled the pogroms and ended in NYC at the turn of the century. Tata's parents fled the Nazis and ended up in Argentina in the 40s. Papa and Tata met at a dance on the Lower East Side while she was in town visiting a cousin. They got married, moved to the Bayside, and had Dad and Uncle Ben. Mom's side of the family is from Brazil, except for her mother, my beautiful Grants, and her dad, Augusto, who died before I was born. The rest of Mom's family, all of her glamorous aunts, uncles, and cousins, still live in Alto Laban, a ritzy suburb of South Rio. Grants and Augusto moved to Boston in the early 60s and had Mom and Aunt Kate, who was married to Uncle Porter. Mom and Dad met at Brown University and had been together ever since. Isabella and Nate, like two peas in a pod. They moved to New York right after college, had me a few years later, then moved to a brick townhouse in River North Heights, the hippie stroller capital of the upper Manhattan, when I was about a year old. Not one person in the exotic mix of my family gene pool has ever shown any obvious signs of having what Augie has. I've pored over grainy sepia pictures of long dead relatives in babushkas, black and white snapshots of distant cousins in crisp linen suits, soldiers in uniforms, and ladies with beehive hairdos, Polaroids of bell-bottom teenagers and long-haired hippies, and not once have I been able to detect even the slightest trace of Augustus' face in theirs. Not one. But after August was born, my parents underwent genetic counseling. They were told that August had what seemed to be a previously unknown type of mandibulofacial dystosis caused by an autonasal recessive mutation in the TCOF1 gene, which is located on chromosome 5, complicated by his hemifacial microsomata, characteristic of OAV spectrum. Sometimes these mutations occur during pregnancy. Sometimes they're inherited from one parent carrying the dominant gene. Sometimes they're caused by interaction of many genes, possibly in combination with environmental factors. This is called multifactorial inheritance. In August's case, the doctors were able to identify one of the single nucleotide deletion mutations that made war on his face. The weird thing is, though you'd never know it from looking at them, both my parents carry the mutant gene, and I carry it too. The Punnett square. If I have children, there is a 1 in 2 chance that I will pass on the defective gene to them. That doesn't mean they'll look like August, but they'll carry the gene that got double dosed in August and helped him make him the way he is. If I marry someone who has the same defective gene, there's a 1 in 2 chance that our kids will carry the gene and look totally normal. A 1 in 4 chance that our kids will not carry the gene at all. And a 1 in 4 chance that our kids will look like August. If August has children, someone who doesn't have the trace of the gene, there is a 100% possibility that their kids will inherit a gene, but a 0% chance that their kids will have a double dose of it, like August, which means they'll carry the gene no matter what, but they could still look totally normal. If he marries someone who has the genes, their kids will have the same odds as my kids. This only explains the part of August that's explainable. There's that other part of his genetic makeup that's not inherited, but just incredibly bad luck. Countless doctors have drawn little tic-tac-toe grids for my parents over the years to try and explain the genetic lottery to them. Genetics use these Punnett squares to determine inheritance, recessive and dominant genes, probability, and chance. But for all they know, there's nothing more they don't know. They can try to forecast the odds, but they can't guarantee them. They use terms like germline MOSIM, chromosome, or delayed mutation to explain why their science is not an exact science. I actually like how doctors talk. I like the sound of science. I like how words you do not understand explain things you can't understand. There are countless people under words like germline MOSIM or chromosome rearrangement or delayed mutation. Countless babies who'll never be born like mine. Oops, out with the old. Miranda and Ella blasted off. They attached themselves to a new crowd designed for high school glory. After a week of painful lunches where all they would do was talk about people that didn't interest me, I decided to make a clean break for it. They asked me no questions and I told no lies. We just went our separate ways. I didn't even mind it after a while. I stopped going to lunch for about a week, though, to make the transition easier to avoid the fake, "Oh shoot, there's no room for you at this table, Olivia." It was just easier to go to the library and read. I finished War and Peace in October. It was amazing. People think it's such a hard read, but it's really just a soap opera with lots of characters. People falling in love, fighting for love, dying for love. I want to be in love like that one day. I want my husband to love me the way Prince Andre loves Natasha. I ended up hanging out with a girl named Eleanor, who I had known from my days at PS 22, though we'd gone to different middle schools. Eleanor had always been a really smart girl. A bit of a crybaby back then, but nice. I'd never realized how funny she was. Not laugh out loud dad funny, but she was pretty funny. And she never knew how lighthearted I could be. Eleanor, I guess, had always been under the impression that I was very serious. And, as it turns out, she never liked Miranda and Ella. She thought they were stuck up. I gained entry through Eleanor to the Smart Kids table at lunch. It was a larger group than I had been accustomed to hanging out with, and a more diverse crowd. It included Eleanor's boyfriend, Kevin, who definitely became class president someday. A few techie guys, girls like Eleanor who were members of the yearbook committee and the debate club, and a quiet guy named Justin who had small round glasses and played the violin, and who I had an instant crush on. When I'd seen Miranda and Ella, who were now hanging out with a super popular set, we'd say, "Hey, what's up?" and move on. Occasionally Miranda would ask me how August was doing, and then tell him I say hello. This I never did, though. Not to spite Miranda, but because August was in his own world these days. There were times at home that we never crossed paths. October 31st. Grant had died the night before Halloween. Since then, even though it's been 4 years, this has always been a sad time of the year for me. For Mom, too, though she doesn't always say it. Instead, she immerses herself in getting August's costume ready, since we all know Halloween is his favorite time of the year. This year was no different. August really wanted to be a Star Wars character called Boba Fett, so Mom looked for a Boba Fett costume in August's size, which, strange enough, was out of stock everywhere. She went to every online store, found a few on eBay that were going for outrageous amounts, and finally ended up buying a Jango Fett costume that she then converted into a Boba Fett costume by painting it green. I would say, all in all, she must have spent 2 weeks working on this stupid costume. And no, I won't mention the fact that Mom has never made any of my costumes, because it really has no bearing on anything at all. The morning of Halloween, I woke up thinking about Grans, which made me really sad and weepy. Dad kept telling me to hurry up and get dressed, which stressed me out even more, and suddenly I started crying. I just wanted to stay home. So Dad took August to school that morning, and Mom said I could stay home, and the two of us cried together for a while. One thing I knew for sure was how much I missed Grans. Mom must have known I missed her more. All those times August was clinging to life after surgery, all those rushed trips to the ER, Grans had always been there for me and Mom. It felt good to cry with Mom. For both of us, at some point, Mom had the idea of our watching The Ghost and Mrs. Murr together, which was one of our all-time favorite black and white movies. I agreed that that was a great idea too. I think I probably would have used this weeping session as an opportunity to tell Mom everything that was going on in school with Miranda and Ella, but just as we were sitting down on the front with the DVD player on, the phone rang. It was the nurse from August's school calling him to tell Mom that August had a stomachache and should be picked up. So much for our movie day and our mother-daughter bonding. Mom picked up August, and the moment he came home, he went straight to the bathroom and threw up. Then he went to his bed, pulled the covers over his head. Mom took his temperature, brought him some hot tea, and assumed the August's mom role again. Via's mom who had come out for a little while, was now put away. I understood, though. August was in bad shape. Neither one of us asked him why he had worn his bleeding Scream costume instead of the Boba Fett costume Mom had made for him. If it annoyed Mom to see the costume she'd worked on for 2 weeks tossed on the floor unused, she didn't show it. Alright, so let's head over to part 2.